What if I told you it's possible to make $100,000 in sports betting while you're still working your 9 to 5? Kind of sounds like clickbait, right? Well, it's not clickbait and it's not easy, but I am here to tell you how it's possible with the right approach. Let's get you on track to that 6-figure income while you're still collecting your regular paycheck. When you're working 40 hours a week and want to make this much money on the side, you're going to need some strategies that don't take up a lot of time. Now, in my courses on Better Ed, I talk about what I think are the best ways to make money in sports betting using predictive modeling. But what I'll talk about here will still get you there without needing to do too much math at all. The approach that pro sports bettors use that take the least amount of time is called top-down betting. There are a lot of individual strategies that can be classified as top-down betting, but the basic idea is that you use the knowledge of the entire market against the sportsbook. Let's look at some ways you can do that. The first thing you're going to need to do is to start out with a good-sized bankroll. Let's be real for a second. You can't make $100,000 if you're just starting with $1 to your name. Sports betting is like an investment. If you want to make money, you have to have some money to bet with in the first place. I know what a lot of people really want is to start with a few dollars and turn that into a fortune overnight, but the truth is, betting is about long-term growth. If you want to make serious money, you need a serious starting point. At the very least, you're looking at starting with a bankroll of $5,000 to $10,000, but even that is pushing it. It's a lot easier to 1x your bankroll than it is to 10x your bankroll, and a lot easier to 10x than it is to 100 or 1,000x. You're also not going to be putting all your money on the line with each bet. You're going to want some kind of bet sizing strategy. What I use is the Kelly criterion. Whatever bet sizing strategy you use, you're going to end up betting about 1 to 5% of your bankroll per bet, typically. If you do want to use the Kelly criterion, I have a free calculator on my website for you to use, and more info on using it the right way in my Basics of Sports Betting course. So check those out if you aren't familiar with Kelly betting. So if you're betting 1 to 5% of your bankroll per bet, if you have a $5,000 bankroll, that means you're placing $50 to $250 bets. This gives you the chance to steadily build profits without wiping out your funds on one bad day. All right, on to strategy number 2. And this one's all about using promos and bonuses. Now, you're not going to make $100,000 betting promos alone, and you can't milk these forever. But they are going to be immensely helpful when you're trying to build your bankroll from the start. Most sportsbooks offer huge deposit matches, most of them at 100% and sometimes to $1,000 or even $2,000. That means if you deposit $1,000, they'll match that with another $1,000. Sometimes that comes in the form of free play, where you only get your winnings back and not the original bet amount, but other times it's cash, just straight up. Either way, it's free money. This is another reason starting with a decent-sized bankroll is important. If you start with $10,000 and distribute that across 10 sportsbooks at that 100% deposit match, you now start with a $20,000 bankroll. Super nice boost without placing a single bet. And now you can get to that $100,000 a lot faster. You can also usually get pretty similar reload bonuses. So if you're winning at one sportsbook and you keep losing at the other sportsbook, you can just deposit back in that losing sportsbook and make some of that back up with a reload bonus. Now, do be aware that most bonuses come with a caveat. Almost always, that caveat is a rollover, meaning you need to bet a certain amount of money before you're able to withdraw it. Know what the rollover is and whether your bonus is free play or cash before going all in on it. All right, this next strategy is a game changer, and it's all about picking off stale lines. If you're trying to make $100,000, then finding and exploiting these mispricings will be a really efficient way to build your bankroll. Here's how it works. Sharp sportsbooks, like Pinnacle, are often the first books to move their lines to what eventually is the closing line. So if the line before game time is +8 at -110, Pinnacle might have gotten there a few hours or a day before the other sportsbooks. Because they get there first, they're called a market maker. They're able to be a market maker because they have higher limits than other sportsbooks, so they attract more money from high-profile bettors and high-profile groups, and that shapes the line, making it more accurate by the end of the week. Let's say a sharp book increases their lines from $10,000 to $25,000 on a game, and it moves from -6.5 to -7. A square book might be still offering that line at -6.5, and that's your window to pounce on that mispricing. Market movement can happen for a lot of different reasons, but limit changes are one of the most important things to key into for sharp sportsbooks. For things like injury news, any sportsbook can get hit first. It's not always the sharp books. There are some stale lines you don't need to be as fast with. You can also compare lines in markets like props and futures. And in those markets, the lines might not move for a few hours or even a few days. I would be careful with this though, because there's usually no true market maker here. But if the limits are reasonably high, you should be able to trust that sportsbook and compare to other ones. You don't need to look at each individual book to find which one is off market. Use an odds screen, which collects the odds from several sportsbooks and displays them in real time. I have an odds screen coming to my website soon, but in the meantime, there are other good ones out there. Also be aware that picking off stale lines makes you an unwelcome customer at most sportsbooks, especially the square ones, so use this strategy with caution. Alright, now let's talk about a strategy that is pretty mainstream now but is still viable: long teasers. These are one of the only ways in sports betting to make money where you don't actually have to think that much. A Wong teaser, which is named after the sports bettor Stanford Wong, is a special type of NFL teaser bet. Here's how it works. You tease the spread by 6 points, but only on teams that are either favored by -7.5 to -8.5, or underdogs of +1.5 to +2.5. By moving the spread past key numbers like 3 and 7, which are the most common winning margins in the NFL, you significantly increase your chances of winning compared to teasing from +4 to +10, for example. So if you have a team favored by -8.5, you can use a 6-point teaser to move that line to -2.5, passing through both the 7 and 3-point margins, which are super important in football. Wong teasers work best in low variance games, so low scoring, not a brand new quarterback, or some other huge question mark in the game is best. But here's the catch. Not every sportsbook is friendly to Wong teasers. Some have adjusted their payouts to limit how effective this strategy can be, so make sure you shop around for the best odds and teaser payouts. If you find books that give you -120 or better on Wong teasers, you're probably in pretty good shape. I would say that most Wong teasers range from -118 to -125, depending on how good they are. So be selective in which Wong teasers you're choosing because not all of them are winners. My cautions for you here are: don't use teasers unless you're going through 3 and 7, don't use teasers for totals, don't use them for other sports including college football, and don't bet them at worse odds than -120. The next strategy is to build several angles. This is going to require some work on your part. An angle is just a specific strategy, insight, or unique factor that you can use to get an edge over the sportsbook. I can't give you a bunch of angles here because that may become obsolete. What I can do is tell you how to find them. One of the most valuable ways to find angles is to recognize process changes in sports. So that might be in-game dynamic changes like foul trouble, or it might be rule changes that affect a whole season. Spotting these changes in real time and knowing how they're going to affect the odds can give you a huge edge over the sportsbook. And once you have that angle, you can keep betting it over and over and over again until it's finally accounted for. There are definitely some nuances with angles that we don't have time to cover in detail here, but I do talk in detail about these in my advanced course on my website. So if you haven't already, I would definitely check that out. All right, the last strategy I want to share today is a really good one, especially if you don't have a lot of time during your 9 to 5 to do the research and find bets yourself. You're going to want to find a list of good, well-documented bettors to tail. Tailing, or following other successful bettors, can be a great way to win consistently, but it's important to choose the right people. There are a lot of self-proclaimed experts out there, but you want to focus on bettors who are well-documented, meaning they track their bets publicly and prove that they're profitable over time. A lot of people will do this through the app BetStamp, so that's a good place to start looking. Once you do find good people to tail, you'll find that when they send their bets out, the lines move pretty quickly, so you're going to have to act fast. Tracking when they usually announce bets and having an alarm set and your sportsbooks open on your computer will be the best ways to catch a bet at the right price. Remember, even though they say they like the Lakers at -7 and -110, that doesn't mean they'll like the Lakers at -7 at -120 at all. You need to be getting very close to the same numbers they get for it to work in your favor. The last thing you want is to tail a winning bettor and lose money because you were too slow and got the wrong number. All right, so those are your strategies. Now we just need to cover a couple logistical steps to set you up for success. To hit your $100,000 goal, you're going to need to split your bets across different sportsbooks, sports, and bet types. One sportsbook isn't going to tolerate you taking $100,000 from them. They'll limit you to ridiculously low bet sizes before that happens. Similarly, they aren't going to look kindly on you if you're only using one of the strategies I talked about today, or if you're only betting on one sport or one specific bet type. Spread the love a little bit. Let's break it down. To hit $100,000 in a year, that's around $8,333 per month. If you split that between 10 books and 5 different sports at each book, it becomes $166 per sport per book per month. Much more manageable and much more acceptable to the books. With top-down betting, you're looking for opportunities where you have a 2 to 5% edge on the book. Depending on your angle, you might have anywhere between a 1 and maybe even 10% edge on the book. The 10% edges last a lot less long than the 1% edges do. You have essentially 3 ways to increase your bottom line: your edge, your volume, and your bankroll. If you're Kelly betting with what eventually is a $100,000 bankroll, you might end up with an average bet size of $1,000. If you have a 3.5% average edge, you're going to need to make 238 bets per month to get to $8,333 per month. That sounds like a lot because it is. It's going to take some time, but it's definitely doable. Or if none of that sounds like it's going to work for you, you can watch my other videos or take my courses to find some more creative ways to win. If you head over to my website, you'll find ways to win involving alternative lines, futures, props, all kinds of different things. If you found anything in this video useful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It makes the YouTube algorithm like me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.